Have you ever been out with one of your buddies and someone does something and you're like, oh my God, this might be the stupidest individual on the face of the planet? Well, that happens a lot in fantasy football, especially when I'm watching my buddies draft. Like, they could be doing something and they could be like, oh wow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is here in the 6th round. Let me snag him. And I'm just like, you are the dumbest person that I love on the face of this planet. Well, in this video, we're gonna talk about all those types of moves you can make to be that guy. You could be you could be the dumb one of the group potentially. But all being said, welcome to the Pylon Cam, and let's get into this video. First up on this list is Antonio Gibson. All of these ADPs and draft selections, running back rankings, quarterback rankings, all these rankings are brought to you by Underdog Sports. Check them out. They're like the consensus player rankings for this season. They're definitely the leading brand. I guess they're a brand leading in the industry for all of this stuff. But first up on this list is Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson is currently going off as the running back 25, ADP 71.9. My argument for this, and this is kind of something I've been preaching all offseason, is where does Antonio Gibson fit in this offense? And I don't think he has any sort of particular role in this offense that's worth to us in fantasy value. Today's the first day of training camp as I'm recording this video. And Gibson was sidelined with a hamstring injury. But let's talk about what the Commanders did this offseason before training camp. The Commanders selected Brian Robinson in the 3rd round, 98th overall. Brian Robinson as a prospect was widely viewed as a downhill runner, someone who could easily get those short yardage gains and has incredible ball security, things that Antonio Gibson has struggled with in his NFL career so far. Antonio Gibson led all running backs with fumbles in 2019. He had 2021. He had 6 fumbles in 2021. And according to Ed Oliver, a Commanders content creator, and the local beat for Washington, there is a lot of concern for Gibson's long-term position as the lead back. They brought back J.D. McKissic as well, who was planning on signing with Buffalo, but then ended up turning down that contract to return to Washington. And McKissic's role in Washington was to be that pass-catching back. What Gibson truthers have been waiting for him to leave is because they want Antonio Gibson, who was a wide receiver prospect, going into the 2020 draft. They viewed him as someone with high pass catching upside, and he just has not lived up to that. He hasn't seen that opportunity, and he has struggled running the ball efficiently and struggled running the ball on the goal line, kind of where most of the fantasy points are made. So with Gibson having a lot of uncertainty in his outlook as he's not a pass catcher, and they literally brought Brian Robinson in to be that goal line back, I really do struggle seeing the value in Gibson for 2022 in fantasy. His ADP has plummeted since I started creating this video. And if you could snag Gibson in the 7th or 8th, I think he's definitely worth something. But still, the point remains, like, if he's not catching passes and he's not scoring touchdowns and he's really rushing the ball only between the 30-yard line to 30-yard line, where is his value? Because, again, to reiterate the point, he's not catching passes and he's not scoring touchdowns. If Brian Robinson is going to be that goal line back, who currently is and looks, excuse me, reports are saying from training camp today, he looks really well running with the ones. Like, he's getting all the first-team reps today. Who knows when Gibson's going to come back? And this is definitely going to be a committee backfield, like, without question. Ron Rivera was asked today, like, what their plan for Gibson is, and what he kind of said was he's just a back who they want to get into space more. They want to create more opportunities for Gibson to be running outside the tackles as opposed to in between the tackles. And if that's what Gibson's ceiling is this running back who's going to get a lot of work to rush to the outside and he's not catching passes, maybe they are going to scheme some plays to get him in space in the flat or whatever the case may be. I don't see the volume being there for those one-off cases to be worth drafting him in fantasy football. Like I said, unless you're getting him in the 7th or 8th round. I think Gibson's definitely someone who's going to make you look like an idiot in your fantasy drafts. I always kind of chuckle when someone drafts Antonio Gibson, especially with like some of the drafts I've done. I've seen Gibson go in the 4th or 5th round, which is just insane compared to who you could get a Travis Etienne in the 4th round. You could get a Breece Hall in the 4th round. 2 unquestioned backs with little to no timeshare or committee, and you're getting Gibson, who is literally, they have been yelling at us, this is going to be a committee, this is going to be a committee. I just don't think you should draft Gibson. I think there's plenty of other receivers to take, running backs to take even. Ramondre Stevenson, it might be the first 3-down back in a Patriots offense since I don't even know who. And he's going at a similar ADP. I just think Gibson's not worth it, man. And his ADP has plummeted since I started putting this video together, like I said. Definitely avoid drafting Antonio Gibson. Funny story about Clyde Solaire. One of my buddies just drafted him in the 6th round in one of our drafts. And I just think, like, what is the, like, I wanted to ask him, but I didn't because I didn't want him to feel like an idiot in the moment because I wanted him to play out his draft like he had been planning because it's better case for me and everybody else that he just keeps drafting like an idiot. Hilaire is going as the RB28, ADP 87.0. My hot take for this series, you're going to be able to get Hilaire off waivers. Like, I don't think he has any sort of role in this offense besides potentially becoming the pass-catching option. And I don't even see him doing that. Like, because Jerick McKinnon, who they had, really came alive down the stretch of last season, and he was, like, very efficient, very explosive. He really added some spark to that offense down the stretch. But like I said, like I don't see him becoming more than that. Like maybe the alternate pass catching option, or maybe beating out Jerick McKinnon as the pass catcher. And like I mentioned with Gibson, training camp started for the entire NFL today. Every NFL team is going into training camp and has started training camp today. And CEH is starting off on the PUP list. Like he's not even practicing right now. So with his limited role and his very grim outlook, if he's not practicing with the ones, he can't gain more opportunity because other people are out there. Like McKinnon's out there practicing with the ones. Ronald Jones is out there practicing. Isaiah Pacheco is out there practicing. I just don't know like what the point is for Clyde Edwards-Helaire in this offense anymore. The Chiefs brought in Ronald Jones, like I just mentioned, and Isaiah Pacheco while retaining Jerick McKinnon, who was a huge spark for this Chiefs offense down the stretch. I don't know where Hilaire fits into this offense anymore. He's not a better runner than Ronald Jones. He's not a good pass blocker. He's not a good pass catcher. Like, there's not really much Clyde Edwards-Helaire does that they don't have someone that does it better. Like, I would definitely argue that McKinnon's a better pass-catching option. Ronald Jones is definitely a better pure runner. And Pacheco might be the fastest running back on the team and the best value at the running back position if you want to gamble on anybody in this Chiefs backfield. Like, I would much rather just scoop Pacheco late into in the last round of the draft or off waivers later on if I drafted someone I don't like. But I do not draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Definitely don't draft him in the 4th or 5th round. Like, definitely not. If you could get him in the 10th, sure. But I just think that's a wasted roster slot, to be honest. I'm out on Hilaire. I thought he was cool. I drafted him in a ton of startup leagues when he was drafted as a first-round pick. He was like, and let's not to kind of extend this point. Like, let's look at Hilaire's contemporaries. Jonathan Taylor went right after him. Cam Akers went after him. DeAndre Swift went after him. J.K. Dobbins went after him. A.J. Dillon went after him. All are better running backs in the NFL, and Hilaire was drafted first. Like, the Chiefs could have had Jonathan Taylor. They could have had Cam Akers. They could have had DeAndre Swift. They could have had anybody. And they picked the worst of the group. And, like, yeah, you miss on draft picks from time to time. But, like, I think Andy Reid's a good enough coach, a competent enough head coach to know when it's time to cut ties. And I think he's at that point where, like, he's really debating, like, what are we going to do with Clyde? Because, like I mentioned, man, there's no point drafting him inside the first top 10, like the first 10 rounds. Like, there's just absolutely no point. Let one of your league mates be an idiot and draft Hilaire in the 6th round, in the 7th round, or even at his ADP in the 8th round. Like, I don't even think he's worth it at his ADP going off the board as pick 87. Like, he's just not worth it to me. I would much rather go with Ramondre Stevenson, A.J. Dillon, just some of these other running backs, man, that you could get in a similar vicinity to where you're going to draft Clyde, and I just really don't think he's worth anything. At the next player on this list that I think, like, I might be the idiot for putting him on here, but I'm gonna stick with my gut. Deebo. I really think that Deebo's rushing production of 2022 is baked into his current ADP, where he's going as the wide receiver 8, ADP 19.3. I don't think he's going to have a bad year, but he's not going to put up those numbers again. Like, it's just not going to happen. Like, I've advocated to all my friends who I'm not in the same league with to trade Deebo Samuel because there is the chance that, like, sure, he does have that rushing upside. And, yeah, he was very efficient and very productive if looked at as a pure rusher. Like, yeah, he's one of the best in the league. But he's not going to do that again. He's openly stated he doesn't want to do that again. He's holding out of training camps. Like, he was practicing on the side today because he does not want to be this guy anymore. Like, he wants to have a long NFL career. He wants to be a great receiver in the NFL. By the way, like, he really wasn't that good as a receiver in the NFL. His success rate on routes run against man and press coverages were pretty piss poor, to be honest. I highlighted those in my wide receiver 10 ranking video. So if you didn't watch that video, go back and listen to my explanation for those numbers. But, like, I'm telling you, man, if Deebo does half of what he did last year as a rusher and even gets half the touchdowns, he's outside the top 10. Like, he's not finishing as wide receiver 8. So I don't know. I think there's a chance too, like in this new offense with Trey Lance, the whole wide receiver group as a unit, their production just goes down because I do think Lance is going to take off way more, and there is the chance that he's just passing to his. I don't know if he's going to pass his running backs more because he does have a huge arm, but like he's thrown less than 400 passes in a game, whether that be college or NFL, in the past 3 years, I think. I'm really cautious about getting into this 49ers offense, whether that's wide receivers or running backs. I think the best picks out of this wide receiver offense is Trey Lance for fantasy and Brandon Ayuk, because I think Brandon Ayuk is been in the doghouse enough where he's willing to and looking to pick up any dirty work he can to get more playing time to work towards a contract. Brandon Ayuk did play a ton with Trey Lance over the summer, before camp, before OTAs, before anything. So I don't know. I'm not saying Deebo's bad and like don't draft Deebo. I'm saying don't draft Deebo at his current price. If he falls a few spots and he's there, sure, jump on him. But like if you're gonna take him before his ADP of 19.3, I don't think he's worth it. Like I really truly do not think he's worth where he's currently being drafted at and what his current price tag is. Next up on this list, I got Miles Sanders currently going as the RB26, ADP 77.3. How should I put this? I kind of similar to CEH's position, but he has a role. What is it? I couldn't tell you, to be honest. Like he is that back in this Philly offense that like does a little bit of everything, gets a little bit of red zone work, gets a little bit of pass catching work, gets a little bit of short yardage work. Like he kind of does a little bit of everything, but a lot of nothing. I gotta sneeze. I just think with this offense, they were the best rushing offense in 2021. But like I kind of highlighted this before, and I'm gonna highlight it again in this video because I got it written down in my notes for this video. I didn't write down Deebo's success rate, so apologies to me. But Miles Sanders was not heavily utilized at all in particularly anything. He was not heavily utilized in the red zone. He was tied in the second most attempts with Boston Scott, and both of those running backs weren't even the best or the highest opportunity red zone rushers. They were both behind Jordan Howard, who carried the ball 24 times in the red zone. And I didn't even include Jalen Hurts in this. This is just looking at the running backs of the Philly offense. Miles Sanders only carried the ball 20 times in the red zone, and this is including any carry between the 20, 10, and 5-yard line. Like he was tied essentially for third in this offense with red zone work. And I do think there's going to be a high uptick for Kenneth Gainwell across the board. I think he's arguably the best pass catcher, and he was very efficient in the red zone given the opportunities he had. Like I mentioned, Miles Sanders wasn't the best at anything last year. He didn't even lead the team in passing work. He was behind rookie Kenneth Gainwell, and Gainwell looked good, man. Like if I had to take anybody from this backfield, it probably is Gainwell. I do have a lot of share in Kenny Gainwell on all my fantasy teams. I think Sanders has potential, man. Like I'm not saying like don't draft Miles Sanders, don't take him at all. Like if he's there, all these players, I think you should get like the value in them is drafting them for a discount. Like if you get them later in your drafts, go ahead. The only one I wouldn't touch with the 10-foot pole is Clyde Edwards-Helaire because I think he's going to be a waiver wire ad. There's a chance, like there is the off chance Sanders outproduces his ADP, being that he had 0 touchdowns last year. I don't see that happening again. Like I don't even think that's likely. There's just too much. There's just too much uncertainty in this backfield. and I kind of touched on this briefly, but like I didn't even highlight what Hurts did in the red zone in terms of rushing. Like Sanders kind of looks like the fourth option in the red zone as a running back. Like I think his role is going to be do a little bit of everything, but be the jack of all trades, master of none. And he's not even going to be the second jack of all trades. Like I think Gainwell is going to get a lot of red zone work. He's going to get a lot of red zone passing opportunities. He's going to continue to eat up passing opportunities. I also just think Hurts takes away from Sanders or anybody in this Phillies offense ceiling as pass catcher. I don't think that they're a team that's going to look to hit your check down. A lot of what they want to do with this offense, at least what it looks like, what my eyes are telling me from reading reports and watching a few training camp videos, they really want to be a yak team. Like they're going to run the ball a lot, but they brought in A.J. Brown, who's one of the best yards after catch receiver in the NFL. They have Devontae Smith, who had like it may not look like it from a fantasy perspective, but he had an amazing rookie season. And Hurts is just like Hurts keeping the ball is better than hitting the check down in my opinion because he's such a good rusher. Like he as a pure runner, Hurts might be one of the best runners in the NFL, and he reportedly is one of the strongest mofos in the NFL. Across the board, like out of quarterbacks, he might be in the top percentile in terms of strength. At least what the reports say. So I'm off of Miles Sanders. If you could get him past his ADP of RB26, if you get him in the 8th, 9th round, maybe the 10th, definitely the 10th round, and definitely the 9th round. But I'm not touching him in the 7th. I'm not touching him in the 8th. If he's there in the 9th, yeah, I'll take a shot. I also, like, not for nothing, like, I am a huge believer in Miles Sanders, and I have been since Doug Peterson was there. But the way that Nick Sirianni has molded this offense, I think it's really crushed Miles Sanders' chances to be anything in fantasy going forward until Sanders is off the team and onto his next contract. The next player I have on this list is Patrick Mahomes. I don't laugh when people take Patrick Mahomes because he's still Patrick Mahomes. But here's my rationale of why I'm not taking Patrick Mahomes anywhere near his ADP. You obviously have Josh Allen as the one, and then Justin Herbert, justifiably so, has creeped up to the QB2. Which leaves Patrick Mahomes to be going off the board as the QB3 with the ADP of 51.0. I just think that there's very easy, like you could easily point to why Patrick Mahomes is going to play under his ADP and under QB3. This is an entire new offense. Like it's a completely new offense. Definitely the same schemes, the same systems, but there's no Tyreek Hill anymore. They brought in MVS, who is poop. They brought in Juju, who might be good. I'm definitely leaning on the side of he's not going to be good. Going to be making TikToks with Jackson Mahomes. And Travis Kelce is going to be eaten up. Like this offense has been reduced to like because Solaire is still there, but he's butt. So like it's just Mahomes and Kelce is the last man standing on this offense. And I just don't think the Chiefs have the firepower that they did. I think Mahomes still definitely is going to throw for over 4,200 yards and 33 touchdowns. But will he be the third best quarterback in fantasy? Probably not. And that's where you're drafting him at if you draft him at his ADP. I think unless we see a massive uptick, which could happen, a massive uptick in Mahomes' rushing upside, I think there's a strong chance he finishes behind Trey Lance, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, and Kyler Murray, and like maybe some others that creep up there. But like Trey Lance ran the ball 30 times in 2 games, and he's a quarterback. Jalen Hurts runs all the time. It was like the QB1 before he got hurt. Joe Burrow is just in a super powered offense. He's 2 years removed from the ACL tear, so he's going to be eaten up on the ground. Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson, and Kyler Murray is Kyler Murray with another weapon. I don't know, man. I'm out on Mahomes this year. Not entirely. Like this isn't a player. The only player on this list I'm not drafting. There's 2 players on this list actually that I'm not drafting at all. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is one of them, and then we'll get to the next one. But I have Mahomes in a few leagues, but I didn't draft him at his current ADP. I let someone take like Lance over him or Burrow over him, and then I snatched him because at that point, like, there's a good chance that Mahomes is top 5. Like that, definitely don't hear what I'm not saying. Like Mahomes definitely will be a top 5 quarterback. So if you do take him at his ADP, you're not destroying your team, but there's that chance like you're taking someone higher than where he's going to finish. Like you're paying a premium for a subpar product, essentially. So I'm not out on Mahomes, but like definitely do not draft him at the ADP 51.0 and QB3. Like I think he's not going to be the QB3 this year. He could. Like he's still Patrick Mahomes, still a top 2 quarterback in the league. But like again, like don't hear what I'm not saying, but don't pay the premium for Patrick Mahomes is what I am saying. Next up, I got Tyreek Hill. He's currently going as the wide receiver 9, ADP 21.6. Ain't no way. Ain't no way he finishes this high. There's just no way. There is literally, and I'll eat crow on this, maybe. And I'm someone who definitely admits when I eat crow. This is someone I'm ready for it. Like if it happens, it happens. But like Tyreek Hill is like he's like the new biggest thing to go to Miami. Obviously, they got Teron Armstead, which is an underrated signing, I guess, because nobody's really talking about it. Everybody's focused on Tyreek. Tyreek Hill's bringing all the attention on his podcast, that saying like Tua is the most accurate quarterback in the NFL. And I just don't believe Tua could do it. Like I'm not a Tua hater by any means. I don't think Tua could support 2 top 20 wide receivers or 2 top 10 wide receivers. Even if it's Tyreek Hill, like I don't care, because a lot of Tyreek Hill's production came from those, like, yeah, he ate up on bubble screens and throws to the flat, quick throws, but like there also were a ton of touchdowns, particularly in 2020, where Tyreek Hill was scoring touchdowns at a 21% rate when he touched the football. And I think those off-script things that made Tyreek Hill the wide receiver 9, all of that stuff that's baked into this ADP is gone. Like, Tua is not going to be scrambling in the pocket, playing backyard football, and throwing nukes to Tyreek Hill. Like, we don't even know if Tua could throw a nuke, period. And we are expecting him to do that on a regular basis. Like, miss me with that. I think, like, Tua couldn't be more opposite of Mahomes. Like, he could not be. He's not that off-script go-getter, like, I'm going to make the play no matter what. Like, Tua... We don't even know if Tua could run since the hip surgery. And, like, again, I'm not a Tua hater. I'm just stating what I think and what I've watched. Like, I think Jalen Waddle, and if you missed my top 20 wide receiver videos, I have Jalen Waddle ranked above Tyreek, only because, like, I know that Tua could make Jalen Waddle a wide receiver 12 or wide receiver 13, wherever he finished. I don't know if he could do that with Tyreek. And, like, even if he had to throw the ball to Jalen Waddle 140 times for Jalen Waddle to finish as the wide receiver 13. That's actually a great point that I don't even have written down. He had to throw the ball 140 times to Jalen Waddle to have him finish as the wide receiver 12. And we're expecting in these are 2 premier weapons in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. We're expecting Tyreek Hill to have less than 140 targets and finishes the wide receiver 9. That's craziness. Like, do not draft Tyreek Hill as ADP. Don't do it, man. I'm begging you. Please, like, I could be wrong and we could sink the ship together, but I swear, bro, do not draft Tyreek Hill. He's not getting no 140 targets, I can promise you that. They didn't bring in Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, so they didn't bring in 3 running backs to have Tyreek Hill get 140 targets. Like, I swear, dude, that is actually saying this out loud is hysterical. And like, there also is the point that, too, like, Mike McDaniels has never called an offensive play in an NFL game. The entire time he was in San Fran, Kyle Shanahan's the ones calling plays. So, like, we have a coach who's never called an offensive play. We have a quarterback who had to throw 140 times at the same receiver to have him finish as the wide receiver 12. And we're expecting Tyreek Hill, who's with the complete yin to the Mahomes' yang, bro, to finish as the wide receiver 9. Like, come on, man. Come on. Like, I'm not even hating right now. These are just numbers. And, like, the numbers, I'm not good at math, but the numbers don't add up to me. And I'm not good at math. So if you are good at math and you can make these add up, like, comment, dude, because, like, I'm all about it. Like, I'm all down to be wrong. But, like, yo, Tyreek Hill is not finishing as a wide receiver 9. I swear, bro. I swear. But, yeah, dude, don't draft Tyreek Hill. Next up on this list, this is the second player I'm not touching no matter freaking what. James Conner, currently going as the RB14. And check this out. So I started preparing this video at this point 3 weeks ago. I'm not trying to boost myself and say, I put 3 weeks worth of prep into my video. Like, no, I've just have been behind and, working on other stuff. I wanted to get my rankings out before I did players to avoid, so y'all could hear my, like, at least logic behind some of these thought processes before I go ahead and give you players you should avoid without knowing anything about me. Let's talk about James Conner, right? So, when I started recording this video, James Conner's ADP was 23.1 on Underdog. It has since plummeted, and I think this is the farthest plummet of any player in fantasy, to the 32.8. James Conner, his ADP went down to a whole 9. Like, he's gone down 9 spots, bro. Like, that's almost 10 whole spots, actually. James Conner was electric, and I ate crow on James Conner because I said same thing last year. Avoid James Conner, avoid James Conner, avoid James Conner. And of course, he has a breakout year. First year I'm on YouTube, he has a breakout year. Whatever, I'll admit it. But I still was kind of right, and I'm not saying I was right because I was wrong, but hear me out. What James Conner did last year, it's not happening again. Like, newsflash, it's not going to happen again. James Conner had 15. How many touchdowns did he have? He finished as did I write it down? I don't know how many touchdowns James Conner had, but he had a ton of touchdowns last year. But listen to this. James Conner only averaged 3.7 yards per carry, which is dog water. Like, that is so bad for an NFL. I think, like, the average yards per carry was close to 5. It was in that, like, 4.4 range last time I checked. And he was basically a whole yard below that. On a unit, by the way, according to PFF, finished as the 15th best offensive line. PFF just released their O-line rankings about 2 weeks ago. The Cardinals' offensive line is ranked 25th this year, so it's gone down a whole 10 spots. And we think James Conner is going to come in here and do what he did last year. There's no way. Like, there's just simply no way that happens again. By the way, last year was the first time in James Conner's career he's played 15 games. Like, he has never played over 15 games ever. He didn't play 17 last year. He only played 15, and that was career high. James Conner's red zone efficiency is also going to be like nearly impossible to recreate because he was so good in the red zone last year. He also saw career highs in almost every single metric in 2021. Pass catching, rushing volume, touchdowns, etc. It's just not going to happen again. Like, it would be so, like, James Conner really would basically tell me to go F myself if he came out this year for the second year in a row. I put him on this list and he does better than what he did last year behind a worse offensive line with more pass catching options. Like, I am no Christian Kirk believer, and I've made that abundantly clear. But like, they got Marquise Brown there now. DeAndre Hopkins is gonna come back. Like, James Conner is like teed up for regression, and he's not gonna finish. Like, they brought in Damian Williams. They drafted Keontae Ingram. Like, they know James Conner's gonna get hurt. He got hurt last year. He's gonna get hurt again. They don't trust him in the red zone. That's why they brought Damian Williams in. Dude, I'm telling you, bro. Do not draft James Conner. Like, I'm telling you, do not draft James Conner. This is the one player. Also, I'm still just couldn't pay me. You could not pay me to draft Clyde Solaire or James Conner. I swear, bro. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. That's gonna do it for what I had. Let me know what you think of this list. Let me know who you think should be on here. Let me know who burned you last year. I know a lot of people got burned by AJ Brown, and myself included. I kind of wanted to put him on this list, but I didn't because he's still AJ Brown, and I believe in his talent. But let me know what you think. Comment. Check out my other videos. Check out my top 10, top 20 rankings for running backs and wide receivers. I'm going to have my Dynasty running back rankings out pretty soon. I also got a bunch of NFL content, so if you care a lot about the NFL and not as much about fantasy, that's going to be coming out soon. I got a bunch of stuff prepared for that to record and get out there. I just wanted to get this fantasy stuff out there so I could start doing more like niche videos, like mock drafts, round by round things. But yeah, man, I'm going to have my players to stash as well. There are a bunch of players that I think, maybe not, I might not title it stash, but players that you should definitely, like basically the opposite of this video, players you should definitely be targeting. And I'm really excited about that video because I think I got some, like a lot of my players on that list really got really like reassured me today. Watching some training. I watched training camp videos for about an hour, maybe more. But yeah, man, let me know what you think. Let me know which thought. Let me know who should have been on here, who got left off, who shouldn't be on here if someone's on here. I think it's pretty foolproof. There's about 2 in my brain that I would be convinced to take off. Probably like Miles Sanders, Patrick Mahomes. I'm confident in Tyreek Hill. After I made that argument, dude, like, no shot. But anyway, let me know what you think. Comment, like, do all that cool stuff. Talk to me. You won't hurt my feelings, by the way. Like, if you want to go in on me, that's cool. That's totally fine. The only thing is like, don't be like, Mike, you're an idiot. Be like, Mike, you're an idiot. Here's why. And then I'll be like, sweet. Like, now I learned something. You might be right. I might push back on you and be like, oh, well, I also know this and this. But nothing will hurt my feelings. That you won't bother me. But yeah, man. Check out my other stuff. NFL stuff coming. Let me know what you think. Also, hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up on Instagram. Do all that cool stuff. And I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.